Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Sim. I'm the head of content here at Unlimit, and we are so excited to have you with us today. Could you start us off with a bit about your journey, your experience, which has led you to the point that you are as a VP of Business Development?
Right. Thank you, Sim. Thanks for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here with you and to be in the series and to contribute to the industry in whatever way I could. Yeah, so about my journey, I joined Sumsub around April of this year as a vice president for Asia Pacific. It's an extremely interesting journey for me to be here in Sumsub because once I tell you what I have done right before Sumsub, this all makes sense. So in Sumsub, I am tasked to go forth and take APAC region to the next level, as well as look at how I can work with developing some good and enduring partnership to grow together with Sumsub. Now, right before Sumsub, I was the global partnership director for Merger Science. Merger Science is a blockchain analytic predictive platform. It's basically a ragtag company, but in the crypto and blockchain space. So it's ragtag, yeah. So, and basically it is an area that is evolving and rather new. Yeah, very exciting. I had a very good time there. My work there helped me to forge good strategic partnerships and also look out for indirect businesses. Before Merger Science, I was with Jumio, which is the KYC provider of the industry. And that was where I started my foray into the RegTech industry. And basically in there, I was the channel director for Jumio, and I look after the whole partner ecosystem as well as the partner businesses for Jumio. It gave me the opportunity to really hone in on the area. And this actually happened during COVID. So it was actually a trying time and yet a really good time for Jumio because that was the time where people really need an onboarding KYC so that we don't need to meet each other. We could actually onboard customers for digital banks, for platforms like Buy Now Pay Later, and it really, really was an eye-opening experience for many of these businesses. Now, if you think about these two businesses together, Jumio was basically KYC as well as businesses onboarding businesses in the fiat world. Merger Science was RegTech in the blockchain world. And together combined, I am working on both type of industry businesses for Sumsub. So that's why, it was significant for me when I was approached by Sumsub to join them and help them lead the business for APAC. Prior to my foray into the RegTech industry, I did spend time in the IT industry really all my life. Right before that, I was the channel director for Micro Focus, currently known as OpenText, for the Southeast Asia, Korea, and AEC region. There, I actually managed a group of very experienced software professionals. And there, I also forged a good strategic relationship with the key partners. Prior to that, I did spend half my life in the senior leadership for marketing. So I was marketing director for McGraw-Hill, Zebra Technologies, Intermag, and also spent quite a good number of years with HP Inc. There, I moved from product marketing to alliances marketing as well as program e-business. So it was a very enriching experience with HP Inc. Yeah, that was me.
Oh my goodness, you've had such an incredible journey. It's been so busy and you've taken on such different roles and as you mentioned, they are very connected industries in many ways, but also so different. And I think where you touched on being a part of an industry with especially the use of KYC during COVID, that's something that has been a phenomenal thing to watch. The growth of digitization and how we are trying to protect consumers and onboard clients without ever having to meet them, and ensure that everything is regulated, protected, managed. Those technologies have been incredible. I can only imagine how exciting that must have been.
Yeah, it was. It was really exciting, and it has been good not just for the industry, for Jumio, but personally, I experienced a lot of growth. I really learned a lot about how the technology has evolved, and being relevant in the time, a trying time like COVID, and yet helping the industry to stay safe and trusted. And at the same time, the company is basically very compliant to the regulator. So it actually hits a few points for me. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. And I know that you mentioned McGraw-Hill as well. Like, I've heard of McGraw-Hill and like some of the other names, and it's just incredible. You've had a very enriching journey. I mean, looking more at your career pathway from a sales and business development perspective, we largely see that sort of role and similar roles around it as being quite male dominated. So has that been the case in your experience? And if it was, how did you deal with any challenges that came with your authority?
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. Yes, the IT industry, since I've been here for so long, it is indeed an industry that is male dominated, not just in the role of sales, but really in the role of business development, and also in more tech roles like software development, engineering. They are very male dominated, but the industry has come a long way. So if you actually look around, there are a lot of changes and encouragement from the industry, both in the associations, the government, and even in private sectors. They are looking to encourage and have more to embrace the diversity, the gender diversity. And very fortunate for me, even though I grew from a point where there were a lot of male, but because of the diversity movement, I do see that the changes has actually helped me quite a bit. Now, if I were to take us back to about 2019, that was the time where the whole talk about giving more diversity in the IT industry, encouraging more female to come on board. During that time, since I'm based out of Singapore, I will quote the Singapore's Council of Board Diversity, where they had actually provided a guidance and an encouragement and even incentive to encourage the top 100 basically primary listed companies to look at the ability to hire more female executives in the top positions. And the encouragement, the statistic was to be able to hit 25% of women in the board by the end of 2025, and then by 2030 to hit about 30%. So this actually is a huge movement that not just resides in Singapore, but it transcends across. And I heard from my friends and contacts that in America, this was actually even more apparent. Now, with this, I have the good pleasure of informing you that, in Sumsub, we actually embrace this. And if we were to take a step back and look at the Sumsub's executive in the top position, I'm pleased to say that about half, 46% to be exact, are actually female leaders. And these are leaders not just in the area of sales and business development, but really in all across the board, in HR, operations, marketing, customer success. We have women, honing in on the top positions. So with regards to your question, did I feel challenged? Did I feel uncomfortable? Was there any challenges? Actually, to date, not quite. I'm actually very fortunate to feel that, because Sumsub has this movement, as well as within Sumsub and outside of Sumsub. The movement has actually worked in my favor. Sumsub rewards by meritocracy, not by gender differences, and because there are so many of us, they do recognize the voice of the female person on the table, and also the ability to contribute, as well as provide the rightful expertise in their rightful areas. And therefore I don't actually have the challenges that maybe others may have felt.
So thank you for your honesty. I think that's such a relevant conversation. And what I love most about this series is I'm seeing so many women, much like yourself, talking about the fact that they recognize that we do have a gap. But so many of our contributors, many have faced stigmas or conversations because of their gender. But so many of them, much like yourself, are working for organizations that are so pro-women and pro-diversity, equality, and equity. And it's amazing to see, because it's a massive stride that we do need to see within the industry. So it's lovely to hear. And it's the same within Unlimit. We have so many women that are leading departments, and they're in senior roles, and they're creating change. And we're very, very fortunate as an organization that we also are very progressive. So I love to relish in those moments where I get to hear that. So thank you for sharing. One of the questions that I would really like to ask is more about like the leadership angle that you're talking about. So where you mentioned that there are women in senior positions, much like yourself. So as a leader in business, how do you set the tone of work and communication for your teams? How do you generate a good structure, a good method of communication, so everyone's working towards the same goal?
Right. I definitely appreciate that question, because that is something that I practice every day, and it's something that it's really something that I'm pretty proud of, and will really love to share about it. One of my greatest experience in leadership is communications. The importance of communications. So I would advocate that everything we do, we have to communicate. Now that is easy to say, but there are actually a few double clicks below that tone of communication, right? I think not just female or male, basically as a leader, it is so important to be able to communicate the goals clearly. And these goals has to transcend from the company's goals, the leadership goals, and also the goals of my department, right? So each goal must actually be connected and transcend downwards, and be articulated so clearly that every person who is in my organization and outside my organization, which is probably in my peers' organization, we all are a piece of a jigsaw puzzle. And in order for us to basically head towards the right direction and fit nicely into the whole jigsaw, we need to be able to understand the goals very clearly. So therefore, communications to me is a very, very key thing. Now, next to communication is the importance of looking at APAC as a region. I think we all can clearly see that APAC as a region is actually a very diverse place. Like if you look at America is one country, however diverse it's still homogeneous. They speak one language, predominantly one language. But in APAC, we have different countries. I think the last I count was more than 13 countries, and each country has its own culture, has its own languages, and each country, some country has like India has more than the number of languages that I can count in my fingers. So in order to basically work together and basically be able to charge against the goals and basically be able to reach our goal together, we have to embrace each other's culture and recognize our differences. And in doing so, we have to talk it through. And again, it goes back to communication. If we embrace our culture and understand each other based on how we operate within our culture, within our language, then we will be willing to come together. And if there are issues, we work it out. If there are things to communicate, we communicate. If there are areas that we need to iron out, we iron out. If there is a puzzle to be solved, we solve together. So again, together we look at it and solve it together, and communication is again key. Back to communication. And the third point that I would bring up is, I think, is the ability to lead by example. To me, this is cornerstone. Do what you say what you do. So there is no guessing. There is no, suspicion. When there is a suspicion and there's guessing, there's always lack of trust. When there's lack of trust, then there is a brokenness in the culture. And if the culture is broken, however well you communicate, people don't trust each other. It is really very difficult to work together to hit the goals that we want to hit, and celebrate the results together is another point that we probably want to bring to home. So leading by example is one of the areas that I advocate. I'm actually a pretty transparent person. I spend time with my group and my people, both as a group as well as individually. When I travel and I happen to be in the area, I will basically spend time and really find time to work with them. For those that are in Singapore, the face-to-face as well as non-face-to-face, one-on-ones, the weeklies, some people feel that, oh, isn't that too much? But really, the weeklies, I don't think is too much, because the more we spend time together, the more we understand each other, the more we know how we work, what actually triggers the best thing out of a person, what actually trigger the worst thing out of the person. And I'm a fan, a firm believer of the Gallant Strength Finder. If you know the strength of the person, you work to the strength of the person, and therefore, from there you will actually pull out the best of the person. And satisfaction is on both sides, from my side and also from the person's side as well. So all of these work together to hone in the tone of the direction and my way of making sure that there is transparency, the culture of working together, and explaining each other. No one should be left alone, and no one should be left unheard. If there is something to bring up, let's talk about it. Yeah, so that's my style.
I absolutely love that, because it's very clear that you, despite whatever the size of your team may be, whether it's very large or quite small, it sounds like it is quite a large team. You take such a person-centered approach. And I think that is very important, because despite the fact that we are working professionals and we are in the working world, everyone is still an individual, and everyone has things that make them happy in the workplace, things that frustrate them, and that may be down to personal reasons. It may be their own personal learnings, but I think taking such a unique and bespoke approach with everyone is so important. And I completely resonate with what you were saying about communication. Communication is the fundamental of everything. We see in every situation, whether it's at work, outside of work, communication is the make or break of situations, how we choose to communicate, how often we're choosing to communicate. And I absolutely love that, because clarity is something that's so important in what we do in our workplaces, so that everyone can work towards the same goal and everyone can be happy doing it, and they feel like they're working efficiently in a team. So I absolutely love the message that you just gave us. So thank you so much for sharing. It was perfect. So my next question for you, it's quite a vague, random sidestep, but I would love to know, throughout your career, who were your biggest inspirations that you've come across?
Wow. Okay. If I were to look back, I think the time where I spent with HP Inc. was probably the the time where I did the most development and the most growth, personal growth, in shaping my mind, shaping my style of leadership, and shaping my thinking and how I want to grow as a person, and therefore, influencing my career choices as well. So HP Inc. was definitely the place where it did a lot of nurturing for me. Two VPs stood out during that period, and they will know who they are when I mention, but of course I won't mention names. The first VP is basically he was one of my biggest inspiration. He likes to work on areas that are pretty new and exciting, but at the same time, he's so intelligent. He actually was able to project his goals and how that whole initiative can evolve. So I had the honor of contributing during that period, reporting directly to him, to the establishment of HP's inaugural e-businesses in APAC at that point in time. So he, as the VP who is leading the effort, he led with interesting entrepreneurial thinking in the realm of a corporate, which again, I thought is a very key skill set, because we all are working in a corporate environment. What kind of entrepreneurial thinking can work, what cannot work, is a skill set that you actually need to learn, because you would be very frustrated if you think, oh, that's so entrepreneur an idea, but why is it all shut down, But if you were to have the skill set to understand that there are ideas and there are ideas, there are no bad ideas, all are good, but there are ideas that fit in certain, I would say, business environment. There are ideas that does not fit, and you just have to adjust to make it right so that you can grow from one step to another. So he was very good at that, and I picked up quite a lot of skill set from him from that. Other things that was that actually radiate out from him was his ability to be very inclusive, and his service leadership style with extreme humility. He's such a intelligent person, and he's able to translate his ideas with immense humility. And at the same time, when you actually take a step back, you can see how a entrepreneurial idea could actually evolve and fit into a corporate idea. And that type of skill set actually brought me very far in life, as well as in my corporate ladder climbing. The other VP that came to mind is a women leader. She was a really key inspiration, and again, it shaped my career mantra. In all her roles, she mentioned to me that in all your roles, always put service and a learning attitude in front of your vision, for both yourself and for your colleagues, your bosses, and basically your staff, your subordinates. And if you do all of this correctly with the mindset of learning attitude, and that you put service in front of you, then everything else will fall into place. And it was so true, during that time when I was developing and working with her and learning. When you put these intangibles in front of you, you basically put aside things that are more commercial. But at the end of the day, when she says everything fall into place, it means that you will be recognized, the awards will be given, the promotions will be there, and basically there is very little strife and that very little struggle in doing the job, and also making sure that you're making the decisions to do the right thing for the business, for the industry, for yourself. And at the end of it all, because the intangible is so loud and clear, and so convincing, and it's actually internalized within yourself, you find that the whole experience is so much more rewarding and satisfying, and everything else fall into place with the bonus of, the recognition, the awards, and so on and so forth. So these two VPs really make a very big difference in my life. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing. The way you speak, I could tell that you really did take a lot from them and you loved working alongside them. So that's lovely. The reason I like to ask is because I think a lot of the time people get into the habit and routine of working, and maybe only years down the line do we stop and reflect and think, wow, like I really miss working with that person, or that person made such a significant impact on my career pathway. So it's lovely to hear. Thank you. I would sort of like to gather your advice as a professional for our viewers. And it's essentially around the idea of females in leadership, because that's obviously a massive thing that we would like to promote with this series. So what advice would you give to women who want to progress in their careers in business development or marketing to help them really build on their confidence?
Right. Okay. Yeah, there are a few points, and they are all my personal points as well. I do work towards the same points that I'm going to mention to the women of the industry. I think the first thing that really helped me to move along, and it reflects on the two VPs that have actually impacted my life, is really the ability to embrace challenges. Challenges come our way, I believe, not by accident. It's really a way, they come our way because it is an opportunity for us to grow in ourselves, and also to be able to become more resilient. And therefore, if we get challenges and we embrace them, and basically keep our eyes on what is right, and keep our eyes on with the learning attitude, we then become more resilient, and basically grow in ourselves internally, and ultimately everything will fall into place when we grow in our career. So embracing the challenges is quite key in the way we conduct ourselves in this male-dominated industry. The second is, again, the whole learning and teachable spirit. If you keep your eyes on, okay, I'm going to learn from one to another, and as you pick up the challenges and you keep learning, you may execute, and you execute well, but there is always something else that could have been done better. So even with the look out for the areas that can be improved. And to me, this teachable spirit and keeping in touch with the industry and learning and growing together with the industry is very key, especially in IT industry where the technology moves so fast. And yeah, so if you don't keep up and then, internalize it, and then, move it out into practice, you basically will not be able to grow as fast as well and be as resilient as you would like it to be. The third point really is thinking about your personal brand. And by personal brand, it's not just on, how you would like to market yourself, but really to internalize and think for yourself, how would you like to have others think of you? Do you want others to think of you as someone that is true to your word, or or do you want to basically look like someone who is basically heading towards one direction and then moving another? So be very conscious about the brand you are building as you go and do your work, talk to people, work with peers, work with your subordinates as well as your seniors. Be very, very conscious of what brand you are creating for yourself and how you want people to think of you. And then the last is basically to be able to set goals for yourself, believe you me, throughout my journey, I actually keep setting goals, and they should be goals that are achievable and aspirational as well. Now, and because you have your eyes on your goals, it is also key that we when we reach the goal, to basically celebrate and know that you are basically one step above where you were before, and acknowledge it and keep on practicing the newfound strength, and then you will be able to move on to the next found strength. That's my advice to people.
Thank you. Thank you. I really loved all of them, but that last one was very special to me. I think something that we often see, and I'm not sure if it is just with women, but I definitely see it more so with women, is that we're so strong and resilient, and we are so driven to be able to reach a goal, and we're like, nothing's going to stop us. And then we work to it, we get to it, and we're like, right, on to the next one.
And I think we forgot, right?
Yes. And I feel like a lot of the time, actually, we forget to stop and say, oh my gosh, like I actually just did that.
Yeah.
Before, there were so many women that were never even given this opportunity, and they never would have been able to even think of doing what I've just done. So I absolutely love that advice, because I think it's so important that women recognize the strides that they are making. That it is important for everyone, no matter who they are and what they identify as, to do that. But of course, in this series, we're really trying to drive female experience because we see the gaps in the market. And I do really love the fact that you recognize that and you've pointed that out. So thank you so much. I think it's such an important conversation to have. So, I mean, building to that point of your learnings, I would love to know more on a personal level of those experiences that would have led you to that. So as a woman in business, what are some of the assumptions and biases that you would have experienced throughout your journey?
Yeah, but before that, I just want to say that, I think this series is really great. It's good that, you actually spend time in, honing on to talking to women and allowing women to encourage women. I also want to thank you for, starting this series. It's great.
Thank you so much. That's so kind of you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. So, yes, there are a few biases that actually came my way. And I think this two biasness will be something that I hope to open the eyes of leaders, not just women leaders, but really male leaders as well, to understand that, let not allow biasness, be clouding their eyes about women and the leaders, and the women leaders. Like, for example, there was this saying that women leaders usually rule by emotions. So some people would say, let's take a look at the weather. The weather is the woman in a good mood, and then if the weather is good, then basically let's go in and talk to them about certain ideas, or solve certain issues. And I think this is so untrue, especially for myself. I went through this Gallup Strength Finder analysis a couple of times. In fact, I think 2 or 3 times. And each time, my top 5 strength is basically the analytical problem-solving strength. And this particular strength actually means that I'm a very clear-minded person, where I like to look at information, dissect them, and then use the information to make informed choices and decisions, so that we can actually move towards a direction that is a decision made based on facts and not by emotions. So again, this is something that I believe many women are starting to work this way, and that these biases should actually not be in the way of any leaders who are managing women or not. Yeah. The second stereotype that I noticed, that is also something that is important to point out is many actually thinks that when a woman is at a childbearing years, in her childbearing years, they tend to be a little bit more distracted because they have so many things to handle. And like you mentioned, women is so resilient. So, they feel that, because of the resilience, we basically are more distracted during the childbearing years. And again, this is something that is very different for me. During that period of time, actually, it became a catalyst for doing well, a catalyst of my newfound responsibility of being a mom, and making sure that I do well at home and also outside the home. It actually propelled me to basically do better, work better, and balance a whole lifestyle even better. And that was actually the time where I would say my career actually expanded much faster than I could even imagine. So yeah, these two biases will be two that I would like to point out, that let not these two biases be the ones that continue to cloud the mind of people that are working with women.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And I think that message is twofold because, as you said, it's one to leaders about not maybe perceiving and having those, whether unconscious or conscious biases. But I think it also shares a very powerful message to women out there who may be approaching those years of their lives, or they may be in similar situations, and they can consider how they want to behave in that. And should they be demotivated? Should they be able to continue and work in an efficient way? I think that's obviously, particularly where you spoke about childbearing years, that's a conversation that people choose not to have because they see it as something that shouldn't be discussed.
Such a pity, right? I mean, that's actually an important period of time for any women. And actually, that's the time where you have the energy to strive for both your career and being an absolutely great mom.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we see throughout this series, I've also seen other incredible guests like yourself, and they talk about motherhood and how they've experienced stereotypes or biases where people are like, well, if you're going to be a mom, then you can't be in business. Like, you're not going to be successful. And
it's so true.
Yes, and it's crazy because also what I have seen is in both my personal life and in my professional life, I've seen this new lease of motivation and energy from mothers because they have their children and they are so empowered to make sure they make strides so that they can be like, my child is going to grow up and be proud of me, or my child won't grow up and experience the same things that I have experienced.
So true. So true. Yes. Yeah.
And it's a very, very important message. And I think it's something that is so misconceived. And of course, I do not take away from that motherhood must be incredibly hard. I'm not there myself, but I've seen friends, I've seen family. We all know that it must be incredibly hard. But I absolutely agree. It's something that is still very, very taboo almost. And I really appreciate the fact that you brought it up because I feel like it's so misinterpreted, and we are seeing women who are what is considered to be like the everything woman, a woman who's a mother, who's a working professional, who has interests, who has hobbies. And I think that new perception of women is so important to bring into workplaces because women are doing everything and they are doing phenomenally well at it.
Yes, agree. Totally agree. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So my next question for you is about empathy. So something we often see as another misconception is that women are too emotional or they might be too empathetic in the workplace. And, emotion clouds good judgment. And I feel like it's very misconstrued because being nurturing, being empathetic, they're actually very strong attributes. But I would love to know from your perspective, do you think that empathy is important in the workplace? And if so, why?
Absolutely. Empathy to me is very important, actually. And I I don't like to generalize, but I do agree with you that, women tends to be more empathetic, tends to be able to put ourselves maybe in the shoes of others better than our enduring male colleague. But at the same time, just to kind of like go back to my point about communication. Communication is a two-way thing, right? And you say something, in order to get something back, you got to listen. And therefore, communication is a two-way thing. Now, hearing without listening is a problem. And when you hear and you didn't listen, that's when you don't have empathy. That's when you don't not internalize what the other person is trying to tell you. And if you have the empathy spirit or the empathy capability, you will then, attempt to understand and basically hear the person out and try to understand where this anger is going, and whether there was an anger that actually will take all of us somewhere, or it is an angle where you could actually, provide constructive feedback to evolve it to another place. And maybe that's something that I may not have seen. So to me, having empathy is not just a soft skill, it is a catalyst for organization evolution, for trust, for building trust, for building a culture where people are not afraid to tell you or talk about things that is dear in their heart, and basically learning to listen, and hence going back to my first point about being a great communicator in leadership.
Yes, you said that so perfectly, because I think I completely agree with what you're saying. And as you mentioned, listening and hearing are two very, very different things. But I think with naturally like more empathetic people, they are eager to listen and to hear, because they want to make sure that everyone is nurtured or they're heard and they're included. And it's very important. And I think, especially as we're seeing newer generations entering the workplace, so we have like millennials and Gen Zs. Gen Zs are very culture driven. So they won't join organizations that don't stand with their values and that don't make them feel important. So
Yes.
empathy is going to be a fundamental in the workplace when we get to the point that Gen Zs are now entering the workspace.
Agree. Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, it builds trust. It builds a communication that that this is where we are going to be together and work together and grow together, and we'll go from this place to the next place together.
Absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. So thank you so much for sharing. We're actually at the last question already. I cannot believe how quickly it's gone. But it's quite an open-ended one. And it's just, what are 3 tips that you would like to share with other female leaders?
Wow, 3 tips. Okay. I guess I think the first is to be a leader. You must be looked upon as someone that is confident. So I would say that cultivating a confident this demeanor that actually radiates out from you is very key. When you are confident, then people around you, be it the subordinate or the bosses or the management, they will have the confidence in you as well to solve problems, to be able to lead the team from one place to another, to be able to meet the goals of the company. So showing that you are confident and you have the ability to be able to do it is very key, and it should radiate out. It shouldn't be something that you keep within yourself that, yeah, I'm confident, but then it doesn't radiate out. no one feel that it's possible with you, So it has to radiate out, that the confidence comes out from you and people believe in you, right? And to build that whole radiation of confidence, it is also important that, you know, we actually build a I would say a ring fence of people that you can rely on. So this would be your network that you build along the way, a lifetime of people that, you know, you meet along the way, and you know that these are the people that are going to be true to you, be able to tell you, hey, you know, that's not a good idea. They can tell you to your face and you have no problem with it. And or they can actually enhance your idea and tell you, hey, maybe you can do it this way or view it this way. Having this whole network of people that actually comes through your life, and that you can actually fall back on, is I feel is a great asset in life. And also people will remember you as who you are during that period of time, and setting a history of, you know, how you have handled certain things, and also basically, you know, you will be remembered in the industry for doing some things. And then the last one, and I think I can't emphasize this enough, is really to be authentic, to be true to yourself. I talk about earlier about leading by example, and I talk about doing what you say and saying what you do. This is kind of my mantra. You know, I don't like to guess what others are doing, neither do I want them to guess how I feel. I think it's important that they are able to hear what I say, and in my mannerism, they know what I say is what I'm going to do, and not that, you know, I'm going to say one thing and the next thing, you know, hey, she's changed in her direction. That will be very unpredictable. And when you are unpredictable, there isn't trust that you can actually build. And with no trust, and therefore the communication that comes out to you from you does not radiate out, and it will just, you know, go down the spiral ladder where everything just fall apart, because people cannot understand if this is really true you, or it's something that you are just saying it. Yeah. So being authentic is the final point that I want to bring up as well.
Thank you so much for sharing those. I think they're very, very special and very important. I agree with all of them. And I think authenticity, I know you've emphasized that one at the end. I think it was a great one to leave as the final one, because it is very important. And also each of your tips, very like they interconnected very well with each other. And that sort of communication, that authenticity, sharing your confidence, being authentic will help you build your confidence. And as you are more confident, you can be more authentically like yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it was perfect. So thank you so much for sharing. This actually finishes our time together. I'm out of questions. I'm sure I would love to think of more and more questions, but I understand you have other things to be doing. And I'm so grateful to you, Penny, for making time to speak with me today. I absolutely loved our conversation, and you have so much to share, and it's such an important message and voice. And I'm very, very grateful that you gave us the opportunity to speak with you today.
Right. Thanks, Sim. It's so lovely to meet you, and so lovely to be able to, you know, share what is in my heart, in my life. And also, you know, to those that are listening in, it's really good to be able to, you know, touch someone, hopefully in some way, one way or another. Yeah, it will really make a difference for me as well. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. And it's very, very clear that it's very authentically who you are. You have such a passion, and it's just lovely. It's lovely to hear your voice and your reasoning and your experience. So it's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you so much.